There you go.
So David, here we are on Thursday, June 27th. Lennie's is going to be closing in, what, 3 days?
Yes.
3 days. So go ahead and set the scene. Who's here at the table with you?
I'm here with my family and with my friend Michael. This is my son Alex, my wife Marilyn, my oldest son Adam, my good friend Michael. So we just came in to enjoy. We want to drink this all in before it closes, because it's not certain what's going to happen afterwards. We're going to try and save some of it, or maybe most of it, but it's out of my hands. My job was to put it up. It starts back in the early 80s when I decided that I needed to go directly to the public, and if I wanted to be an artist in Bloomington, I would have to come up with my own strategies, because normally in our society, money is how we keep track. So unless a big gallery validates you, or a museum, then you kind of go under the radar. So I wanted to stay in Bloomington, and I didn't want to do all that. So I'm going under the radar. But I'm frustrated because my work isn't being seen by a public, or at least it's sporadic. So I decided to create this alter ego, Tomcat spray. And the metaphor is, cats prowl the alleys at night and they spray and mark their territory. So I cut all these stencils, and I went in, I think in 83 and 84, I basically painted the town red and made Tomcat spray famous, but nobody knew it was me, which is part of the fun. David Ebbinghouse was known for performance work and kind of more avant-garde, esoteric, who knows what he's doing kind of stuff. So Tomcat, I didn't know if he would be famous or if people would like him, but it turned out they loved it. They liked the attitude. So then I almost got busted one night, and then the idea came up that maybe it'd be okay if I'm arrested, because then I'd get free publicity, and that was a strategy that was recommended by some artist friends of mine. But Marilyn said, no, you should not do that she has to live in the same town with me.
Did you have kids then?
No, but she said that would not be something she would appreciate. So she said, why don't you leave him wanting more and just quit, and then nobody will ever know, and that'll be more interesting. And I thought, we love Batman. We don't really care for Bruce Wayne. We love Superman, but Clark Kent is like weak and indecisive, and so David Ebbinghaus is that idiot, stupid guy, crazy. But Tomcat spray is cool. We like him. So that worked, So then it took a long time for the cat to get out of the bag. But eventually, Joe LaMantia asked me to be a part of his project, which was What is Democracy? And I ended up doing a graffiti painting for that. He got a grant, and it's a long story. But anyway, he ended up with a 8x8 panel painting of mine. And then Sherry Rouse got that put in Ballantine Hall, which was incredible to me because I never could have engineered that in a million years. So when she's a regular here, so when she realized that they're going to move out, she wanted to have a Swan Song art exhibit here. And so then she texted me on Facebook and said, I want to talk to you about an exhibit. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And then she said, how would you like to graffiti the bar? So that got my attention. And of course, I'm going to do it 110%. So I think she thought I'm going to work for a couple of weeks. And then June 16th, they had like a little reception, for the show in the restaurant part. But I've been coming in every night at midnight and working a couple hours or so. So I've got like about 40 hours of time spraying in here. And then I can't even estimate how many hours of, it goes back to the early 80s of me I still have the stencils, from the original Tomcat spray Rampage. So, I could bring out old favorites so people would have nostalgia, and then new pieces that are more timely. And then those are like brush strokes. I can use those, I can make paintings, push and pull and do different things with colors, and then use the stencils as like the content. So I can still use my artistic judgment, even though it's old work, so to speak, but it's new because I'm using it in a different way, in a different context. So I've been having a great time, coming in here every night, and they turn off the radio and they all go home, and I'm here by myself and I can just do whatever I want. So I don't have to worry about the police or anything, because the vandalism part of it was not the attraction for me. That was like a necessary evil. I just wanted to be able to put my work out there and get to an audience, and then I also, with the internet, I found out, like, once I made an Instagram account, Tomcat Spray. Then I started hearing from all these people that were, you know, skateboarders or punk rockers or something in the 80s, and for them this was like really important. And I never heard about this. I didn't get the feedback until like 30 years later.
Now I remember there was a postcard contest, and you won a postcard.
Oh yeah.
And it was a picture of a Tomcat spray.
Well, it was this big stripy face guy. This was originally on the cover of Look magazine, and then it got used by the 13th floor elevators as part of the San Francisco psychedelic art scene. And then I recontextualized it from there and put it on Kirkwood. So I took a photo of that and I entered it under my name, David Ebbinghouse, as my photo of, you know, local Bloomington. So it was really funny because then people were telling me, oh, you got paid, you ripped off Tomcat Spray, and you know, you exploited him. And I said, yeah, I sure did. How do you like that?
Yeah, I remember.
So that was funny.
Them saying that you had talked to Tomcat Spray and he insisted on having a cut of the money.
Oh yeah. I said I'd cut him in on it, which I did. But the other funny thing about that was
the first time your name was really associated with Tomcat Spray.
But, well, that was the irony because people didn't realize that it was the same thing. And then I got flack from other people in town. Politically correct people were saying, you know, Jolanda Lurie, who's rest her soul, she's passed away now, but she was in the Bellevue Gallery and I overheard her talking and she was saying, my two favorite artists are David Ebbinghouse and Tomcat Spray, but I'm a little bit upset with David because he grabbed the glory away from Tomcat Spray. So I went in and I said, Jolanda, keep it under your hat, but your two favorite artists are actually the same artist. And she screamed. It was so funny.
That's great. That's so great. So do you mind walking around and talking about your approach and what you started with? And...
Well, I can definitely tell you the old favorites and the new things. So what I started with was this. I made this headless woman because I'd done this thing from Max Ernst, which is the 100 Headless Woman, and this was a book of collages that he did. So this was one of the early. This was 1984 when I did this one, and so I decided that would be a great place to start. So then I made this specifically for this installation. So
you gave him a body.
Well, I just riffed on this idea. So I just made it literal. Here's a woman's body and she's missing her head. And then of course I had to put Beyond Dada because, you know, Marcel Duchamp did the LHOOQ, the famous mustache on the Mona Lisa. So to go beyond that, I mean, he also did a version of her shaved. So I thought, well, okay, we'll make her topless. So that's Beyond Dada. So then I had to like do something. This missing head's a little disturbing, so then I put this head up. She's got little cats tattooed on her, and then this is the whatever, and then this could be also associated. So, you know, I started going off that, and so then, you know, here's another one. This is like
the rabbit ears on the little...
Yeah, this is the skull with rabbit ears, so this is the Harajuku, but the goth version, you know, where it's cute, but it's also creepy, so... You know, the contradictions. So, and then I had to reprise the stripy face guy. And I was telling you earlier, this was originally on the cover of Look magazine. This was like a stress test for a rocket sled where they were like trying to figure out the G-forces. And then in the 60s, the 13th floor elevators, which is a San Francisco psychedelic band, they had this in their poster. And I was in high school when that came out, and it's like, wow, that really got my attention. So I had to like appropriate that, and I don't deserve the credit for doing this. This is, you know, this, but that's part of my strategy, right? It's like you reappropriate and you retool it. So like this was Have Gun Will Travel, you know, Paladin, if you remember that old TV show, if you're old enough to remember that. But now with all the gun violence, Have Gun Will Kill has a new. So that's part of the thing. It's like, is it satire? Is it irony? Or what is it? Or like 100% unconscious. Originally it was by the year 1999. But that year came and went. So then I redid it by the year 2012. But then so now we're upgraded to 2020.
It's like 1984 being in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So then, but I've also done a lot of decorative things too. Like like on my science lesson, this was David Wojnarowicz, who was a New York AIDS activist artist who died in the 80s. So I appropriated his image but redid it. So, you know, these kind of, you know, shockwave things, you know, this kind of stuff, which I call fill, you know, to pull the whole thing together. And then little details, you know, so all the corners get, you know, things that you know, fill it in and make it work. And then of course I have to refer to cats all the time.
Yeah. And the thing about your graffiti was it gave people an opportunity to think. And it wasn't just there. There was a thought behind it and a purpose.
Well, and it's not overdetermined. You know, there are references, and then you can go off on different associational paths, and then those like interact with each other. So you think like, is it satire? You know, is it irony? Is he advocating this or condemning it? So then you have to like decide, what's my relationship to this? So like, you know, when I do something like this, you know, where they go, well, that's not politically correct, you know, where you're showing naked women. Well, I've got another one over there, you know, hard labor on a sex farm, where those guys are working hard, you know, and so they, you know, it's all there, you know, you can find whatever you want in it. Or like this one, last chance to be nice. You know, this is kind of like what they paint on the bombers in World War II, you know, this kind of thing. But I gave her this huge phallic sword, you know, and then the label on it is like, you know, last chance to be nice. It's not like, I'll kill you. So, you know, that's the kind of juxtaposition that I like. And then, you know, then like pop art, you know, like Lichtenstein, you know, like cleaning it off or, you know, or like this, you know, this would be like a kind of like a Lichtenstein pop art thing, but it's fast drying spray. So, or this one, thousands live normal lives. Like, shouldn't that be millions? You know, I mean, you can figure out however you want to think about it. Or Peter Parker, you know, like when I did this, Spider-Man was not a franchise movie thing. You know, it's funny how the culture's kind of grown up around some of these.
Your comic book heritage comes through quite a bit in this.
Yeah. And then different versions of Tomcat. You know, he has different hats, and, you know, some of them he's punky, and some of them he's a little more friendly. Some of them he's throwing knives. Like there's one over here, 9 wives, 9 knives. There he's a knife thrower. He's got. So this wall is kind of my Mayan metaphor, because we're kind of at the same place at the. You know, the Mayan civilization was great. Like they had architecture, they had astronomy. You know, they were totally successful, but then they're gone. What happened? So we're kind of at the same tipping point now. You know, we're going to end up like the Mayas if we're not careful. So I've used all the primitive art and all the ancient culture on this wall. And this one doesn't work artistically like a painting like that one. These are all particles, so this doesn't have the depth. You know, where in this one it pushes back and it comes back out. But this is all just, so this is from a codex. You know, this actually says something in Mayan, although I don't have any idea. These glyphs, I just like the way they looked. And I made up my own version. Like here's a guy sitting on top of this guy. And this jaguar is kind of like a speech balloon. And of course this guy, he's got his own spray can. And here's his novel, here's his spirit animal. So, you know, it's appropriating their culture. And then I also did this treatment where I found in the dumpster behind this beauty supply store, this micro glitter was used like to do fingernails, but regular glitter is like overdetermined in its meaning. But this micro glitter stuff, so I'd spray this with clear plastic and then like throw that powder on there. So I love how it looks. So, you know, we got all these different metaphors, but what I did with this is some of them I've done like in metallics. So then in this environment, because of this indirect lighting, those parts will glow. They'll like pick up off the wall. So just from an aesthetic point of view, I'm doing this push-pull thing, you know, with the particles. Even the tiny little microparticles. So there are all kinds of things here. Like these I saw in Mongolia. I visited Mongolia a few years ago, and I really loved the graphic quality of a lot of the primitive art, and and Asian art, and or like the bat. That's actually off of Bacardi's bottle. So, but you know, it doesn't matter. And then that was from that tiger thing. That was from a glass Sasanian, 5th century AD Persian work of art. And so anyway, there's all kinds of worldwide culture that's embedded in this wall. But the idea was to make it move, so like all the polka dots that are in silver, that picks up the light, just like this one. So then you get this depth, otherwise it's like totally flat. This is a more flat one, but still you can pop images off of it. Oh, and then at the top also red, yellow, blue. I've got a neon piece that I did 20 years ago where red is actually done in blue. They're out of sync by one register, so the perceiving part of your mind and the sensation part of your mind are not, they're not in sync the way they're supposed to be. So, red actually is done with yellow and blue. Yellow is actually done with red and yellow. So, that's my minimal, avant-garde kind of stuff. So I just made that as like a baseline. That's like the horizon for this work.
So when you see these two walls, what goes through your mind with all the elements that are in place now? What goes through your mind?
I just feel really happy that I've been able to do it and make it work like a painting. Because it's one thing to like put them out in the, when I was doing them in the street, I always wanted to do it deeper. I wanted it to be more dense, and have more depth and more density and more cross-referencing. And so basically I'm just so grateful that I could achieve my vision, because there was one wall that was over behind the Bluebird where we actually got it, to that point. And one behind White Rabbit almost got there. But I always felt like, I wanted to do more. I wanted to make it denser. So it kind of looked more like above the windows over there, where you'd have like a succession of pieces, but they don't really, each one of them has a meaning and you read it, but when you embed it in like a whole matrix and you start, composing like from an art point of view, then I'm just happy that I could finally pull it all, push it to the degree that I wanted to. So yeah, that's what runs through my mind. It's like at last, after decades, I could.
So how many stencils have you used?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it was like about 40 hours of spraying here after hours, but I can't even estimate how many hours of time I've been working on this for decades. Yeah, and I get ideas and I go like, okay, I'm going to do like some little thing, like I'm going to do a smaller version. Like there's a larger silver one in there next to where it says in French, "We're here to bomb the walls," next to the skull. There's like silver ones, but then I've done smaller ones. So, I got inspired to like do repeats and, reinterpret some of the old work. And I've been working on that kind of stuff anyway, because I get involved with ideas of like, okay, how can I do a different version? So you've got this pair here, this male and female pair. Then there's another version here. It's the same thing but different. And then there's another one down there between red and yellow, another version of it. So that just happened because I thought like, well, what if I do this? Or okay, I'll try that. And so then when I got the final, I got the opportunity. Like here's another example. Here's a small version and then a larger version. So if I had to just start like from scratch, I probably wouldn't have done that. Or like this, here's a crazy looking scorpion, and then like here's another version of that scorpion. So, or here's like from an Indus Valley, this is like 4,000 years ago, these seals that they used in the Indus civilization. And I just copied that out of a book. I just thought it was really cool. And we don't even know what this says, but the unreadable text is kind of like postmodern idea also, like the unreadable text. We know this says something in Mayan, but I couldn't tell you. So I don't know, it's a way for me to indulge in all my interests. And
so what do you hope people who come into this room, what do you hope they take from this exhibit?
I just want to overwhelm them, and I just want them to like keep like, wow, there's so much to look at, it's so interesting. It's the color is so loud and fluorescent, and just like a big experience, something they'll remember.
So when you see a blank spot, you go, oh, I need to do this.
Well, I've tried to I didn't get all the way around, but yeah, I'm thinking, part of what I do in my art is take the things that are normally despised or overlooked, and then like put them in a different context so you can get something out of it. So if I see a space like that, I think, well, I should use that, because normally nobody's going to use that. Or like here, this was for the bartenders over here, because you normally wouldn't look up here, you know, if you come to the bar. But if you're behind the bar, you're going to see that all the time. So I put that up there for like the people that work behind the bar. So it's just a different, and that's kind of a metaphor for like finding, you know, being curious and finding things. And you know, if you really look, you're going to see a lot more. But if you just go through like sleepwalking, then you don't look up.
Now Tomcat had some copycats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that were doing.
Oh yeah. They waited until they heard tinka 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 tinka, you know, and then they said, "Aha, we've unmasked you." And then, so anyway, I taught them how to cut stencils, and they got really good at it. But then they got frustrated because their work was almost indistinguishable. It made Tomcat look like he had really done a lot more.
Yeah,
so
really.
I kind of like that, because in a way, then it's not, you know, his persona was really more than me. But then I told him, you guys got to get out of town. You know, you're young, and go. This is not a career. You're not going to get anything from this. And so that was like a training ground for them as artists, you know. And they really got good. They got too good.
So over 35 years ago, you started doing this.
Yeah. In 1983, I think, is when my frustration boiled over, and I thought, I'm just going to take it to the street, you know.
So did Tomcat do what you wanted him to do?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like an urban legend. You know, it was like a mythical character. And it wasn't me. I mean, that's what I liked. I really liked the mystery part of it, where like I would go to the Runcible Spoon and drink a cup of coffee, and I'd hear somebody at the next table, and they're talking about it. That was really fun, you know. And they don't know that they're sitting right next to the guy who did it, but they'll never know.
As we approach 3 days to go before this place closes,
yeah, they're
what are your
gonna.
thoughts about what's going to happen to the exhibit?
Well, you know, best case scenario is that these get sawzawed out and they get conserved, and maybe IU, the museum or the campus or somewhere gets them, IU Foundation or something. And then the other suggestion was some of the smaller pieces, you know, like on the ends or over the door or out in the vestibule, you know, those could be cut up and they could be auctioned and given to charity. So I would like it if it's conserved, but you know, the whole nature of graffiti is that it's ephemeral and it's impermanent. So if they just bulldoze the whole thing and it's all lost, that's the way it goes.
It's part of the art.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And I'm just so grateful that I got the opportunity to come in here and do this. You know, for me, it's just so much fun. I mean, I'm a process guy. I like doing it. I like the problem solving. And then I'm going to sit there and look at it and like, yeah, that worked. You know, that was good.
And to integrate all the different elements together and look at it as a whole piece instead of an individual piece.
Yes.
That's a whole different way to look at your art.
Exactly. You know, to see this as one giant painting, that's really the whole thing. And I wanted to do that in the street, and that would have been very difficult to have 40 hours into a site without getting thrown in. Yeah, without getting caught. So I just didn't want to deal with that. You know, I was just, so I did what I could, and I made it as, and you know, it registered. People still remember it. So here, let's go out in the foyer here.
Sure.
So here's my signature. This one everyone remembers because it was right there in Kirkwood on the side of Kilroy's. And then here's my alter ego. There he is. That's the guy. And then here's another one of the variants. You know, here's a leaping cat leaping over the pile of skulls. And then the more
happy cat.
Yeah, well, like kind of the ethnographic interpretation of it, or you know, the Frady cats, and so and then these were little Peruvian weaving motifs, you know, the little cats. So, you know, this kind of has the whole thing there, or kind of like op art. You know, this is like a spray. And then there's an S in here, you know, Mr. Spray. You know, it all, there are a lot of different things you can get out of it. Or like in this one, I've always been interested in these interlocking patterns. So these labyrinths, which symbolizes a kind of journey, actually I want to make like full-size, that's one of my goals, is to make like big labyrinths that people could walk through, or like this endless knot, you know, this decorative calligraphy kind of stuff. So, you know, that's all my concerns. These are all things that really interest me. The figure ground, how you can make it pop, and how you read it, and you know how all these things in and of themselves don't mean anything, but when you put them in a specific relationship, then all of a sudden you get a whole lot, and even an emotion of like what this guy, you know, people have an emotional response to this. So, anyway, this is the whole thing right here.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, David.
Yes.